Did you know that dogs have a sense of time? That's right. They eagerly anticipate when we come home, even if their routines are disrupted. How cool is that, Chrissy?
It's so true. I mean, my dogs stare at me at like 4:45 just to make sure dinner is going to be on time every day.
That's right. My dog Oakley tells us when it's walking time. Well, we're so excited for this episode. Welcome to The Dog Moms.
Dog moms, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Dog moms.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Dog Moms podcast, the show where we celebrate our love for dogs and everything that they bring to our lives. I'm Amber, and this is my good friend, Chrissy.
Hi, I'm so excited that everyone's tuning in today. First of all, this is a really special episode because if you've listened to our other episodes, and if you haven't, please go listen. We are changing our structure a little bit, which is something that we feel very passionate about. We're going to actually offer interviews and dive a little bit deeper into taking some really cool people, bringing them on the show, and getting to know them and their dog stories.
That's right. Don't worry though, guys. We're still taking your questions, and you could submit questions to us every single episode. We're going to take a few questions. You can submit questions to dogtv.com/thedogmoms.
Yes, and you can even record. You can even record your voice on mobile. But
so if you want us to hear your voice, then send us a voice message.
So we're going to interview someone really cool today. Her name is Maggie Lawson. I know Amber's really excited about this one. She's talented and a beautiful actress who is also a passionate dog mom and has even been featured on DogTV a little bit.
I'm so excited to find out about her love of dogs and all the things that she has done to help dogs. But I also want to hear a little bit about how Chrissy is doing this week and how her dogs are doing. So Chrissy, can you tell me about how anything going on in your life with your dogs right now?
You know, it's been the summer's hot, and that changes how much I can do with my dogs right now. And so
that's true.
When we're dealing with kind of this seasonal change, it's funny. I become almost nocturnal. I'm the moon's coming out, I can go play Frisbee now. And so
I don't blame you. It's hot outside.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you and I had so much fun yesterday doing all this sort of dock diving. It was the best thing ever. If you guys haven't done dock diving with your dogs, I highly recommend you check it out and go find a place.
It is so much fun. Honestly, your dog has to like water, but you can even get your dog introduced by having them go off of a ramp. If you guys aren't familiar with dock diving and you're listening, it's a dog sport. That's right. There are sports that you can do with your dogs. So if you say you don't like sports, don't worry. If you like dogs, there are sports for you to like.
Yes.
And your dog jumps off of a dock and they measure how far your dog jumps. And basically it's a competition against other dogs. But we just have a little bit of fun with it. And we were taking our dogs out yesterday and it was amazing. One of your dogs did something they've never done before, which I saw.
Know. I keep thinking about that because I have, so one thing with dock diving is that you want your dog to catch the object that you throw. And generally dogs just go to jump and then they get the object later in the water. But I actually got Whidbey, also known as Kevin Bacon, to take the actual toy in the air. And I know that sounds really mundane, but for you dock diving people out there, you're probably nodding your head because it's not so much that the dog catches it. It's I also have to be a pitcher. I'm in a Yankees game.
It really helps a dog know what they're doing when you practice them actually aiming for the toy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge accomplishment. And that's what we call tracking in dock diving. And then with their tracking the toy, it helps them actually jump as far as the toy is being thrown. Mm-hmm. And then you could even try things which you may have seen before where they hang up the toy in the middle of the pool and the dog runs across the entire pool and jumps and grabs it out of the air.
It looks like a hangman, insane. When you're drawing hangman with the little thing on top. That's a little twisted.
It's just a dog toy, guys.
Yeah, don't go getting your little Barbie doll. No, that probably wouldn't be fun. But no, I think it's just such a fun sport, and we're finding that this is such a healthy outlet for dogs, especially in the heat of summer.
Oh yes, it's the perfect summertime activity.
Yeah, we played agility just before that, and we were dying. First of all,
yes,
Amber, girl.
My pregnant self was I can't do this all day.
I was I'm about to pass out. I'm about to pass out.
Trying.
And you're pregnant, and I'm about to pass out.
Amber, are you drinking water?
I don't know. So, but it's a great facility that we go to in Maryland. But if it's something that you guys want to get into, go find yourself a positive reinforcement trainer that is going to help you find and discover some of these great sports. And you can even learn some of this online. So there's a lot of avenues out there.
You don't have to start off with your dog leaping and catching toys. I mean, a lot of dogs get started just enjoying water. Teaching them to like water is really fun. And getting something like a life jacket and going to a pool or going to a lake that's safe for dogs is a great way to get started and have some fun with your dog in the summer.
I've used a baby pool. Like, get yourself a baby pool and fill it up with toys and water. And I've used like a little platform so the dog learns to jump just into the baby pool. And that's like a great precursor to getting your dog comfortable with leaving a surface into the water.
Yeah,
so anyway,
and obviously know your dog. Know your dog. Some dogs are going to be obsessed with it. Some dogs, one of my dogs does not enjoy swimming, and so I just let him go and like hang out, and he's happy to do that too.
He just paddles around. He's such a sweet boy.
Like, oh my gosh, my dogs. We love our dogs. Well,
we do.
We still have Maggie to talk to, and I'm really excited to talk to her because I'm a huge fan. So
I know. So why are you a huge fan? Tell me. I want to peel this out for the audience here.
Okay.
Why, Amber?
Well, obviously she's a dog lover, which is what we're all here for. But she is an incredible actress and in the show called Psych. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a really, really funny show. It's one of my favorites with my husband as well. We just watched the whole thing very easily and very quickly. And it's kind of like a murder mystery type of show, but it's funny. Okay. So you don't get those like combinations very often where like you can laugh, but you also have like the mystery, like you want to figure out what's happening aspect to it. Yeah. It's really clever. It's a very clever show. The premise is basically about a guy who is like a terrible, he would like, I don't want to say terrible because that sounds bad. Maggie's going to be like, no, he's great. He's a great guy. But he was like a disappointment to his dad, who's like a detective. And his dad taught him everything he could know about being a detective. But he's kind of like a dropout. He doesn't do anything. And he wants to find an easy way to like have a job. And so he doesn't have the credentials to be a detective or an officer or FBI agent or anything. So he pretends he's a psychic. And that's kind of how the whole thing gets started. And Maggie is one of the detectives. And so he he works with her and they have a really awesome dynamic. And
I'm going to have to watch this
It's very funny and it's very interesting. So check it out if you haven't.
All right. Well, now I have something else I can binge watch on a Sunday night. Actually, during the day.
It's a great binge watch.
It's too hot out.
Binge watch.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to get Maggie on the show. Guys, please stay tuned with us. And if you haven't already done it, check out our other episodes. You can listen to us on Spotify and a bunch of other streaming platforms. We're so happy to have you here, and we can't wait to get Maggie on the show. So let's bring her in.
Hi, everybody. Now, we have an amazing guest with us today. We have Maggie Lawson, who is not only an amazingly talented actress that has starred in many TV shows and movies, one of my favorite all-time TV shows, actually, which is called Psych. It's a huge, huge TV show that my husband and I absolutely love. And he was very excited that I'll be talking to Maggie today. So I'm excited. And Maggie is not only an amazing actress, but she's also a really passionate dog mom who not only loves animals, but actually advocates and does amazing things for them with her foundation, which is called the Tiger Francis Foundation. And I'm really excited to hear more about that. She has also hosted the adoption show on DogTV. And I hear that you've done a lot of other things for DogTV too that I'm excited to hear about. So let's welcome Maggie to the show. We're so happy to have you here.
That is the nicest. Thank you. That was like a too nice intro.
Oh my goodness.
I greatly appreciate it. And I'm so happy to be here. And also DogTV is just so close to my heart. I feel like I know it from, I love the sound of dogs barking. It's my favorite.
Okay. Because my dog is already joining the podcast.
Yes. Good. He is welcome. Or she. Oh boy. Oh man. What is happening?
So who is this? We have a little compilation to show you from your work with DogTV.
So cute.
Oh, wow.
And I guess we're just going to record.
Okay,
welcome to the Adoption Show, the show which features dogs that are up for adoption. It's a very, very, very special show, very close to my heart.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Dog Star, the show that just can't exist without your beloved dogs.
Hello, everybody. So nice of you to join us for the DogTV Hour. And today on Maggie's Top List, 5 ways your dog is
than your boyfriend. I don't even remember
Does your dog watch TV? Many dogs react beautifully to visual and auditory content that is broadcast on TV.
Oh, your name. Thanks, Maggie.
It's got peanuts. not on the thing.
Oh my gosh.
I lost my mind over that. I remember.
Ever.
A picture of Peanut.
I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
I hope Peanut loves it, but I love it.
Oh boy.
That is so cute. I love that.
That's so fun. Oh my God. Ron, wait. I mean, I know he's not like really here, but
He's not here.
we went
He's
to
like
San
Wizard of
Francisco.
Oz. He's behind the black curtain.
Yeah. We did a trip to San Francisco at one point, like me and my friend Sean, who was in that with me. And I forget, it was like, oh my God, what was it called? That we were making almost like a funny Things We Wolf About. Thank you.
Oh,
and
it's still there today. So when
like-
did you start with DogTV? You said it was about 2013. Is that
yeah, I discovered it. Someone like had told me about it, and I had at the time 2 dogs, and I would put on DogTV, and I was like, oh, this is legit. Like it was,
It's not just TV.
and it's also not just for dogs.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I would literally, I learned a lot, but I would also like it was the most peaceful thing to have on in the background, and they loved it, and it kept the house calm, and like I was so into it. So I did a little research, and I was like, who could I reach out to? I had some like ideas. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to like whatever. And I just went on like a search, and I found Ron's name. Like I found like a something that listed like CEOs or founders or whatever. And I just like cold sent him an email and was like, what if there could be something with like rescues, like using rescues in the content, and then maybe they could get adopted. It was already such an established thing. I was like trying to think of, what I was like, I don't know, what could I bring to the table here or whatever, just to like, I just wanted so badly to be involved. And then, he responded right away and was so kind and was like, we'll take it into consideration. And then like, lo and behold, there was like the adoption show. And then as you can see, all the other things that sort of came from it. But yeah, so
that's really cool. Can you tell us more about like what the adoption show, because I wasn't familiar with it previously, but can you tell us and our listeners what the adoption show kind of was and what you guys did with it?
Yeah, it was like dogs that were available. We would feature a dog. If I remember, I feel like sometimes it was maybe one, and then other times it was like different dogs from different rescues, kind of all over. And just giving them like a moment to shine, so they would get
spotlight.
the best, little spotlight, yeah. And talking about them, and talking about just like rescue in general. And then if you adopted through the adoption show, there were all kinds of like starter kits and things you could get to get going or whatever. Yeah, it was really, really, really special. And I don't know, Ron, they're probably still showing the old videos. I'm almost like, is there a new version of that? I'm going to leave Ron alone because.
But I do agree. I do agree with you though, that like the content on there, everyone's like, oh, it's for your dog. So if my dog doesn't watch it, then it's not really, I'm like, honestly, I leave it on because the music and the ambiance is like, it's the same as leaving like a meditation radio on for my house.
100%.
Like there's a whole energy about it. And I really dig that. But also then there's content on there like, we had the dog chef who was doing all these kind of like make your own food at home, and there's all sorts of shows and some shows coming out later this year that are like
training
content for you to watch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's training tutorials, and I mean our show on there where we just like chat about dog stuff all the time. And honestly, like I love leaving the DogTV on the same all day long. But I know you mentioned that you heard about it and you tried it out with your 2 dogs. Can you tell us more about those dogs and kind of little story of like how you got them? And
just my favorite topic in the whole world.
All the things. Yay. Can you tell us all the things about dogs, about your dogs?
I mean, at that time I had my English Bulldog and a French Mastiff.
Oh wow.
Tristan and Franck.
All the wrinkles. I'm just like smushy.
The names are great.
Wait, did you say Franck?
Franck. Yeah,
that's like from oh my gosh, that movie.
No, it's not Kronk. That's
Emperor's New Groove. Franck.
You're thinking of Father of the Bride.
Yes.
Who?
Yes,
his
you're
name is
thinking
Franck.
of
Martin Short. Franck.
Yeah,
that's his name.
Well, this was Francois because he was a French Mastiff.
French Mastiff.
And
that's
his
so cute.
name at the rescue that they gave him was Frankie. And love him. But like you meet this dog and you're like, this is not a Frankie.
Not a Frankie.
But he was used to the sound, so we wanted to sort of keep it, close to that. And it was like, oh, he's French. His name is Francois, and
That's amazing.
And Tristan, I had already had at that point. Oh my gosh, for probably 10. Oh no, maybe like 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Before Franck came along, and so Tristan is this is her paw. She lived to be 13.
Oh, I love that.
And I had a stamp of her paw made right before she.
I've been contemplating doing that. I really like that idea. I like that personal touch and that.
I think the only problem with me doing paw prints is I'm gonna run out of space on my arm for all of my pets.
Wait, do you have like a? Oh yeah, so yours is like I have 15 dogs. Yeah.
Too many of them.
Oh, it's funny. A whole armful of. It's funny because so that was Tristan and Franck, and Tristan was pretty like, I don't know, she could kind of go with the flow no matter what, but Franck was very, very nervous, did not like loud noises, didn't like surprises. I mean, even just like, and was even with some people, never aggressive, but just, he was very picky, choosy about energy and like people that he wanted to be around. And so, and at the time, the house I had moved into, it was fairly a new house and like a new space for him. And so he naturally was very nervous. And I just remember, I remember them, I'd leave it on in this room, and the two of them would just never leave the room. They like, their beds would stay, they had two beds.
Yeah. That was their haven. He knew that was a safe space.
Yeah. And it helped. Like was
it sound? Was it like sound driven or? Like
I think it was
nervousness?
I would leave it on pretty loud so that it would drown out other things.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I'm not a dog, but I definitely I could see a difference in like how they were responding to it. And my friend who had told me about it had a dog as well, who was very skittish, very scared, very like, so she, and with her, she was fine, but it was like, to find something like this, she had texted me and was like, this thing is unbelievable. Like you have to try this with Franck. And both of them just, it was such a peaceful room. Like I said, I ended up being in there so much myself just because of the sounds, but and then I would learn things, and then I'd be like, oh, I love this segment.
The segment that really gets my dogs going nowadays is when the girl or boy is like this close to the screen. So if you don't have a screen, doggy, everybody, it's like super extreme close up, and they're like, good boy. Yeah. And my dogs are like, oh my God.
They love that one. It freaks me out.
They love it.
Like, who's in the other rooms talking right now?
My dogs are like, do you see her? Do you see what she's telling me? I'm a good boy. And I'm like,
it was such a game changer too. This whole like, because, to have sounds and like all of it designed for dogs and for people like us who it's like, I will put their needs before mine.
My dogs are my everything. I will do anything for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, so that's like, it was one thing to discover that this was even a thing that was like, oh, that's cute. And then to be like, oh no, this is legit. Like it's actually what it says it is. Yeah. So it was really cool. So my two dogs, those were my two dogs at the time. And then, later, I mean, you could go through my life and relationships with dogs as well, just because I'm like, in that relationship we had 5 dogs.
Yeah, of course.
And then I my dog Peanut passed about like a year and a half ago, so I haven't been able to. I haven't made the move yet, which is weird. This is the first time in 20 years that I've not had. Currently like had a dog, but I think what's going to happen is I'm probably going to be like, okay, I'm ready. And then I'm going to have 5. Like,
right. Oh, I know that
reach
feeling.
Back out in like a couple of months, and then I'll have. Yeah.
Well, there's a reason. You got to wait until your heart feels like there's a reason for that, whether you can put words to it or not. There's a reason for that. You may not be ready. There's a reason for that. It's not the time, and you have to trust that process, and you can't rush that process. And then when things fall together, whether you timed it that way or didn't time it that way, you will look back on that and go, it all happened for the right reason at the right time.
Right. And for the right dog too. I'm sure like the right dog will come along, and you'll have that feeling of peace where you're like, I think this is like what Peanut wanted me to have, you know,
Yes.
that's something that
It was meant to
that's
be.
hard when you have a heart dog and then you feel like that, like, how could I compare any other dog to this dog? And that's,
Did you
that's
say
hard.
a heart dog?
I did
Yeah.
say a heart dog.
Heart dog.
So tell me the I know what you mean, but I want to
Yeah.
I want to hear
I mean, I guess everyone could probably define it in a different way, but I think it's like when your soul really just kind of like matches and meshes with a dog specifically. And, you know, and I think it can happen with other animals too. Like people talk about like a heart horse, but you know, I think that sometimes you have a dog that's like, you love that dog unconditionally and you care for them and you'll do anything for them. And then there's other times where it seems like the dog, you're not just taking care of the dog also is like taking care of you. And they seem to know a part of you that like no one else can really know. And
That's right.
I know that we've, you know, I feel like a lot of dog parents can relate to that with either a specific dog or maybe two dogs. But yeah, I have 3 dogs, and I have one dog who like will bend over backwards with his whole life for me. And then I have another dog who there's just something about, he just like knows a part of me that like I can't explain it. Like how else do you explain a heart dog? You just like
right.
You got it. Peanut, I so get it. I mean, I say Peanut is my soulmate. And same with Tristan. And then it's interesting because even over time, like Frank initially, because I was in a relationship at the time, and it was sort of like I had Tristan, and so Frank came along and was his, you know, kind of his soul dog, and they were like that. They had that connection, but then even that over time developed for me. And I've had other dogs, but I didn't. There's like the dog. There was like, you know, and as you said, the dog that would do anything for you and protect you and whatever. And that's also its own special relationship. Yeah. And then there's this like soul.
There's no other way to explain it other than like a soul connection. There's no other way.
And you have like almost a language, like you have
there's an
energetic
unspoken,
kind of,
so an unspoken bond there. Like I got my dog Beasley at a time when I just I pulled away from my corporate job. I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing, is this big salary corporate job. And it wasn't making me happy. In fact, on my 2-hour commute each way, it was awful. And I was like, you know what? I'm leaving this job. I can't do it. And I'm going to go adopt a dog. I just need an animal in my life again. Because I think, and you may feel this too, Maggie, that like you forget how much that having an animal in your life is what fills your heart completely, is what makes you more connected to people and your career and your own personal health and how you take care of yourself. An animal becomes just that partnership there. But, you know, it has to be the right time. It has to be the right animal. It has to be the right situation. So I adopted this dog, Beasley. No idea. I picked him from a picture, but man, my heart told me it had to be him.
He's the one.
He's the one. And when I brought him on, I mean, it was just like, I was complete. I just was complete. And he wasn't perfect. Not at all. He had a lot of issues. But now we're just like this seamless partnership, and we follow in each other's footsteps, you know, like we could finish each other's sentences kind of feeling without it ever being spoken.
Yeah. What a beautiful story. I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
I have this thing that I say that I think like, I don't know. I think some people are a little like, okay. But they find us.
Yeah.
Like we may look, you know, we might put the opening, like I've said, okay, I'm open and I'll kind of know. And I've talked to Peanut a little. I mean, you know, if we're getting into like the woo woo of it all, like I will be like, you know, you'll tell me. And I feel it any moment. Like I really do feel myself, because I think it's, you hit on this too about the heart thing that I've even noticed in me. I've almost had to work harder to kind of stay in a softer space in my whole life and everything I'm doing, just because it's almost like that she naturally, I feel like Peanut and I, even though I didn't have her, nearly as long as other dogs, it was a kind of a sudden thing, and she was young, and it just was all, you know, the worst.
Yeah.
But it was such an era of my life, and so much happened while we were together that I feel a little bit like, you know, we have these moments of impact. And I think anytime we lose an animal, as we all know, like it literally is, you're kind of not the same before and after.
Right.
But like this one was such a moment of impact where I'm like fully changed. And
Right.
I feel like now I'm just starting to kind of notice these things in me where it's like, oh, I'm reaching the point where it's been almost maybe too long because I've always had an animal in my life. And the difference is like I started horseback riding over the last year just because there is a horsey, like I do have a little of that, like horsey connection and, you know, but it was, I think, getting me ready for, you know, whenever this next, you know, doggie's going to come to me. I think that I'm just still in the space a little bit where it's like, but it's not Peanut. And that's okay. Like, I know that that's okay. But I also have this, like, maybe the day that I start saying like, it's okay. Like I can really fully accept that it's like, it's just not, I will stop morphing. I mean, I don't know if this is too much to say, but I'll look at photos sometimes, or I'll scroll through just seeing how I'm feeling. And then I'll be like, I'm still kind of morphing.
Yeah.
Everything.
You know, and sometimes like like you said, the right dog will find you, and Peanut, you'll get that peace somehow. And I mean, like I said, I have a lot of dogs. And when I met my dog who like understands my heart, like I can't even express, I wasn't looking for a dog. I wasn't trying to find another dog. I had a dog who like is my entire heart. But when I met him, I just kind of had that thing where I was like, I need to have this dog. Like I was living with my parents. I moved out of their house so I could adopt this dog because I was like, I met him and I was like, I need to have this dog. Like it was, I just knew. I mean, now it's been like 9 years, and he's just been like the best dog in the entire world. And I could have never planned that scenario. And so sometimes, you know, I don't want you or anyone listening thinking like, you know, like I need to figure this out because otherwise like I'm just going to never get a dog and I'm never going to have that moment. Like just give yourself the grace to take as much time as you need. And if you keep your heart open just slightly, you know, that dog will find you and it will feel right and it will be right. And it might not be the most perfect dog in the world, but you know, that's part of loving the dog that comes next for sure.
I think it's part of that's like, it's like any relationship. It's like, it's never going to just be like, you know, oh, this was so smooth and so easy. And so, but that's what makes it unique and special and just that bond.
And what I find really interesting is that you are taking the time to really read yourself first versus like acting on an impulse. Because you say that like you started horseback riding, which I'm an avid equestrian, so I completely understand. Yeah. So, you know, I think what you're doing in those moments is you're like, is my heart do I even feel any acceptance when I go to spend this short amount of time with this animal? Like, am I feeling anything there? Is my heart even feeling like I want to be here right now? I want to be opening my heart up to this next animal. How do I feel about that? Is this too much? You know?
Yeah.
And then to scroll over those images, it's like, how am I feeling today about it? Am I numb? Am I still over emotional?
Yeah.
Is there a pitted guilt about this? Is there a loving acceptance about seeing these photos now? And I'm actually feeling excited for the future. You know, you go through all of those emotions, but I think we're doing the most brilliant thing. And I think, you know, I have 4 dogs and, you know, the last one I got is a pup here. And I just kept telling everybody, they're like, well, here's a dog, here's a dog, here's a dog. Yeah. People have millions of dogs to give away or different situations. And I said, I'm just putting it out in the universe. This is what I would ideally like to accept into our family for my daughter who also wants to get into doing sports. And just putting it in the universe, and no idea, no timeline could have had. I would have guessed that this particular puppy would have happened when it did.
Wow.
But it worked out fantastic. But I think you're doing all the right things by like letting that energy kind of direct you and guide you, because I'm all big on that too. And I think that you are reaching a point where you're like, I can see it from what you say is like, for the first time in a long time, you feel like that door is starting to open. And you're like, okay, but I'm kind of scared because like that's a big step. And I don't know if I'm ready emotionally for what that means, but it sounds like you're getting there.
Thank you for saying that. I do feel, it's funny you mentioned this guilt because someone said to me recently, I was like, I feel her all the time. I feel Peanut all the time. I can feel my other dogs too. And you know, whatever, but but I have started to reach this point where it just feels different. And there is almost like a level of guilt with like, oh, am I
Is it okay to feel this like that I want a new dog?
That I'm okay. And I'm ready for a new dog, and I'm kind of letting go a little bit. I mean, I can almost get emotional just saying it. So I think there is a little of that kind of like the acceptance thing that you're talking about, and also like that it's okay. Like it's okay that I mean, I hope this is okay. Like we've just gone into like kind of a grief podcast.
It's okay.
But I mean, this is real life with dogs, and like this is a huge part of being a dog parent. That's really hard, and we all end up having to go through is like getting that dog in our life and then losing that dog in our life, and what do we do afterwards? Because we're still around, and it's the unfortunate reality of dogs not living as long as us, but it does give us the opportunity to love more dogs and to be able to, you know, be there and have those relationships with new dogs in our life too, which is a beautiful thing, but it's not an easy thing to do at all.
But the love is so great. It's the greatest. And that's why we go back, you know?
Yeah.
It hurts and it's painful. And
we're willing to be brokenhearted again and again.
Yeah. And instead of thinking of it as like a chapter closing, I think of it sometimes as like carrying a legacy on. It's like taking that vine that's been growing and growing and watching it blossom on the end. It's taking your experience with the dogs that you've had and carrying that legacy on, the things you've done to give Peanut the most fulfilled life, and the things you've learned with Frank and some of his fear issues. You as a pet parent have learned so much into improving on the next dog that you bring into your home and being more aware and how to give that dog an even better life. So you take what you've learned and the love and the experiences you've had with each of your dogs. And it's not so much I'm closing the chapter goodbye. It's I'm going to carry your legacy on to give this next dog a life that, you know, that Peanut would be proud of, that our dogs would approve of, and that you can kind of, they're living in their soul vicariously through the next dog you bring on.
That's so beautiful. Think of it like that. It's funny, as you were talking too, I was like, and also what they've taught us. Like I've learned, well, I guess that is what you're saying. By learning so much I feel every dog has taught me something, some other level of also things I didn't know I was capable of. Like my English Bulldog.
So true.
Tristan was paralyzed in her back legs, a 40-pound Bulldog for the last 2 years of her life.
Wow.
And I didn't even flinch at you just don't.
You adapt, you survive.
That's it. And people would say to me like, wow, that's so hard. I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. It's just what you do. And it's how you
just makes you a stronger, better person. And then you look back and you're like, wow, look at all the things that I've done in my life because of the dogs that I had, which is incredible.
More I'm doing today, because I've learned more about how to improve upon the lifestyle that each of my dogs, and I learned so much about them. And like your next dog is going to benefit from all that love and all that experience you've had with each of your dogs before. So I see it as like carrying on that legacy versus like that chapter's closed, here comes a new chapter. It's like, no, it's all intertwined. It's not starting
and
over.
you'll find that when you bring another dog in, that there's so many things that you learned from Peanut and that you're going to apply with this next dog. And then it'll be the same thing. You're like, well, I've got lots of new things to learn with this new dog too. Yeah. So that's just kind of the cycle that is a really beautiful cycle that is difficult to work through. But once you start, you know, you'll know when that time comes, and there's definitely no rush for it at all. And I understand that feeling of like feeling guilty that, man, am I okay to feel this way? And I think that's a totally normal and relatable feeling for all dog parents out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Totally.
And if you end up with 5, you can join the party because we have a lot. We all have a lot of dogs. So
I'm not even kidding. In a year from now, I'll be like, come bring me back on in a year. I guarantee you, like I feel it. I almost feel like it's imminent. Like I feel
my next step is 5. I'm just kidding.
Honestly, I did have 5 at one point. Like when we had 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my, isn't that terrible that I'm like, I have to like literally count? I think we actually had 6. And then like his dog passed, Tristan passed. We got down to 4. Right. A new one came in. And then, so that was like,
what's one more? You know,
I loved it. And to be honest, that's when Peanut came into my life. And it was like this, it was a blue healer, a French Mastiff, an English Bulldog,
awesome.
Wow.
a Jack Russell mix.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
What a mix of dogs there.
It was
That's
Jack
incredible.
Russell mix. They're feisty little things.
Oh my God. He was
Probably the boss of the
best.
house, right?
Yes, absolutely the boss of the house.
Definitely.
Also,
Oh my goodness.
and Peanut, Peanut, who was the tiniest of all of them, like moved into the pack and immediately became alpha.
Oh my gosh, that's
It was
hilarious.
crazy. Like
I
it's
love it.
I love watching like that,
The
the social dynamics.
The
of a pack
dynamic,
of
yeah.
dogs.
Well, and
It's
I
so
honestly
good.
believe in that because like the puppy we've gotten is now like my next high drive dog, Darby. Like they are best friends. And I'm like, my husband will be like, you know what? I know it's a lot of dogs, but like, thank God Fuji came into our picture because now Darby has like a buddy that can keep up with him.
Can you tell that
And-
to my husband? Because I would love a buddy for my hyper dog.
Oh my
But
gosh, right? I know. That's
What
you
are
gotta do
all
more-
of your dogs' names? You just said Fuji, and now I have to hear all of them.
Okay,
Oh,
Chrissy,
so
you go.
I have a weird
Oh,
blend.
look.
I have Beasley. I have Whidbey because I used to live on Whidbey Island. That's off the coast of Washington State.
I
he
know
also go-
Whidbey Island.
Do
It's
you?
Beautiful.
Oh my God, he used to live out there. So no one knows his name or what it means. So we call him Kevin Bacon as his side gig.
Oh my
And
God, that's so cute.
so it's Whidbey, and then it's Darby, and then it's Fuji. So those are mine.
Ease. Lots of
Lots of E's. It's good
Yeah,
for my
yeah,
I don't
daughter.
know how
My
she does
daughter,
it.
my daughter's 6, so it's easier for her when she was a baby to say things like that. So
Right.
kind
Right.
of saves the trend.
Well,
Who's
that's
this
so
man?
cute.
We currently have Oakley joining. I think we have thunderstorms coming soon.
Oh
so.
no!
Oh.
He doesn't
Oh.
love thunderstorms. This is Oakley.
Buddy.
This is probably, I mean, I guess technically I have 2 soul dogs, but this is the dog that I met and I was like, I'm changing my entire life so I can have you.
Oh, he knows
Um,
storms are coming. Look at those
yeah.
stress yarns.
I know. It's okay, buddy. I have my oldest dog, Tucker, who has taught me how to deal with all sorts of issues, and he's a wonderful dog. But you know, I'm sure you've dealt with that, Maggie. And then my youngest dog is Whiskey. She's hyper and crazy
She's
and
a
all
spitfire.
the things. But
Yeah.
Oh my God.
yeah, I wanted to ask you before we wrap this up because I know that you
Oh
have.
my God. That one's so fast. What?
I know. It's
know,
like
I
not
know.
enough time. We could go
Really
on
didn't
forever,
have
but
time.
I wanted to
come
ask
back?
you
Yes. Sorry.
to let us
Please.
know more about your foundation
Oh
and
yes.
what you do because I think that's really cool and I would love to learn more about it.
And I think
Speaking
more
of,
people
like-
can get involved. So I'd love to like pick your brain and how people, if they were interested in even helping out with a foundation like that, like what can we do?
That's so sweet. So our foundation was, to make a very long story short, like I had my partner Jude, who is like a dog walker, dog whisperer, like whatever. And she was the other mom basically to my dogs. And we just got talking one day and we both were like, we both had a similar idea of like something we wanted to do along the lines of rescue, but it's very, very, very hard to start one. It's very hard
Yeah.
to keep up with that. And also we just kind of saw what was happening with a lot of friends and their rescues. And like, we were trying to like, how can we avoid this and whatever. And it was weird. We kind of just went very slow and we had a couple of rescues that like we had taken on and we were fostering and we were trying to find homes for. And then we randomly got a phone call that was like, hey, we need to get a Girl Scout badge for our troop. And
Oh,
we were
yeah.
thinking they need a service badge and we were thinking of doing something with the animals just to do something a little bit different. Would you all be open to that? And we were like, yeah, like let's create a day around this.
How
So we went
cool.
and we took the dogs and watched this day and these kids and saw like, we were like something magical is sort of happening here. And one of the, somebody who was there had a friend who worked at a place called School on Wheels. He volunteers there, which is an organization that, that mentors and tutors, homeless kids so that they can stay at their
Wow,
grade level.
that's
And then when they're placed
amazing.
in homes, they can just
That's
enter and stay.
incredible.
Incredible. And he was like, I wonder if there's anything here, like with the kids, the kids at the shelter. And like, I don't know.
Oh,
so we
can you
got to
imagine how that
talking.
touches their lives. Oh, because that's amazing.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't, like I could,
Yeah.
but then I couldn't
joy
because
you
I
bring to
saw it
them.
happen. So
Right.
we were like, maybe we should, I don't know, maybe we should do some kind of day with the kids, whatever. So we had no idea what we were doing. At the time, we only had a few of our like foster animals anyway. And so we're like, why don't we just take the animals down that we know are kind of made for this and that we knew. One was like a certified and the other was like a turtle. So, but like we had lots of animals, random animals. And
that's so
so we took the few down that we were like, so we go down to this thing and we had the main woman, she's not there anymore, but she was so wonderful. Miss Allison, she was like, why don't we just structure a little assignment around it? So it'll be like a learning experience for the kids. We'll do it at different grade levels because the kids were all ages, obviously. And like a creative writing or just what the experience was to like be around an animal. Some of them for the first time.
That's so cool.
Goal setting opportunities, for that.
Yeah. So we go down and having no idea what to expect, honestly, like, and also a little bit like, are we equipped for this? Like, are we made like
do we actually know what we're doing?
Also, like, what do these children have a lot of stories and like maybe some things that are going to make it difficult to break through to.
Right.
Like, you don't know what you're walking into.
Yeah, it was a giant unknown. And then we walked in and Miss Allison was like, the kids have not, only one kid had come over from this shelter at that point, and he was like sitting at a computer and she was like, he's very grumpy. He's had a bad week. Like, let him have his space and he may take a minute to warm up or whatever. So she's like, just set up and let him be. And so we did that. We were just walking around sort of setting up. We said hello. And of course the animals were all curious about him because they can always sense.
They feel it. Yeah, they know.
And so they want to like help. And so we were, and then he turns around at one point and he's just like, what's going on here? Like, who are these animals? And he started saying names and he's like, we said something along the lines. He's like, where'd she come from? And I was like, actually, she was just found on the streets in downtown LA. And he was like, oh, I live on the streets of downtown LA.
Wow.
And I can't even tell you all within 5 minutes, he was on the ground. I have a photo on the ground, like holding on to the dog.
Oh my gosh. That like my heart.
You're not make me cry. Oh gosh.
We see this and the teachers like Miss Allison just can't contain herself.
And that's like a barrier that like nothing but that animal could have broken with that little kid.
That's right.
No way could we have done that. It was the love of these animals and the open accepting, like no judgment, no nothing.
No one's
like,
gonna be grilling them questions or telling them where to go next. Like they can just be in that moment with that animal that wants nothing more than to be with them.
Yes. And then the other kids came over, and what was crazy is that he had retained all the information we had said. So every kid that came in, he was like, "This is Tristan, and this is Peanut, and this is so and so," and he could tell the stories of where they came from, like a different kid. And so then
he had a
purpose.
Just completely opened him up, which is just that's just such an incredible thing that you guys like discovered and created.
And imagine if that then applied to other things in that child's area, in that child's world, to start to look at things in that kind of regard. But it all started because he finally saw the light that even inspired that childhood curiosity to push forward from there, to like then apply it to the drawing he's drawing and apply it to the conversation he's having. And
amount of papers I still have. So COVID hit, unfortunately. So that became our thing. Our thing was like, we kind of got out of the kind of rescue, get adopted. Like we got out of that and we just sort of pivoted over and said, no, this is what we were kind of almost like called to do, just because it came to us like in this Girl Scouts, and this led to this and this led to that. So we developed this program called Love on Pause that had this whole education. We developed like a whole curriculum actually with Miss Allison that we ended up taking to some other schools. And unfortunately, when COVID hit, the first thing, obviously, when schools were back, that got cut were out of school programs.
Right.
So we're actually still trying to kind of weave it. So we went virtual. Because the kids were all asking for the animals.
Like, we want to see Tristan.
And Peanut, and so they it's very sweet. But anyway, so where we are kind of right now is in the space of like how we're trying to revamp and figure out a way that we could still provide some kind of some of that experience without it's still kind of tricky with some in-person things. So so that's sort of just where we are right now. And that's why in terms of like helping and volunteering and all of that, like that we'll be I'm sure reaching out soon for
great.
but we've kept it very small and very manageable and just kind of in this space of like healing.
Well, you don't need to be big to make a big impact.
That's so true.
That's incredible. And even just hearing about that one child's life, like I'm sure that didn't just affect him that day. That it's it probably
think about your own life. Like you could probably think back to when you were a child, one particular person, whether it's something they said or something they did or something you saw that has impacted the way you've decided to either do something in your own life or pursue something or not do something.
Yeah.
But like it just takes that one moment.
Yeah.
To either go one way or the other.
And that's incredible that you guys have not only started a foundation, but have used this to create those moments for such a vulnerable group of kids and people. And I hope that you guys can get that back up and going. And obviously if we can help out in any way, let us know, and we will be there and we will be making it happen.
Thank you.
Is there somewhere that our listeners can follow along with this and learn more about it? And
we have a website. I mean, at tigerfrances.org. Frances Frances. And also our Instagram is just joy. So, and so there's a post every day and it's just like, and that's just at Tiger Frances on Instagram and
awesome.
And all the updates. And you can see, I mean, we still post things from all of our school visits and whatever. So you can kind of,
Just like this episode, I don't want it to end because my heart is feeling so full right now.
We have to have you back, and that you have 2 podcasts of your own. We didn't even get to touch base on.
That's okay. I do a rewatch of a show called Psych. The psychologists are in, and then I have a new one that's kind of it's so new, but it's called Me Time. Just because the company that I work with. It's a whole long story, but anyway, we kind of landed on this idea of like, I spend a lot of alone time, but it's so funny because so much of my alone time was with Peanut or with dogs.
I know. But honestly, that's what my happiest time.
The happiest times. And also for me, I feel like I learn the most about myself in those times. And like, so I love talking to people just sort of about like, it's funny. One of the questions I ask is about that sort of moment of impact thing, because unfortunately, it usually is something kind of harsh that leads us into a period of introspective, but like
self-reflection,
and where that me time thing kind of comes in. And so, since Peanut, I just feel like everything in my life kind of went like this, and I feel like in a weird way, not that I wish I'd give anything to have her here. But I needed to do some things. And I feel like in a weird way, it was sort of her way of being like, okay, Mom, I got you this far. Now you got to go.
Now you have to do it.
That's her legacy. That's her legacy.
Is such like that was such a powerful statement. I'm going to take that.
I want to definitely check out that. I like the idea of that me time and digging deeper there. And I can think of a handful of things that were good and bad in my life that have caused massive changes, even in my formative childhood years. Yeah. And I really look forward to listening to that because
I want to have you both on. You're amazing. This is not just like,
as long as we can talk a little bit about dogs, then we're gonna
if somebody has a dog or if somebody has an animal, I have like a segment at the end that's literally for like,
great.
If you have an animal, I need to know the name. I need to know all the
absolutely. Yeah. I will say all of my me time is always with at least one animal.
That's right.
There you go.
Actually, we talk about how jolted we feel when our husbands are like, let's go somewhere without the pets. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can go anywhere without my pets.
I'm with you all.
Yeah.
Like I am.
Don't worry. We'll talk to you next year with your five new, crew. It's going to be,
Have you seen this private jet company called Canine Jets?
I've heard of it.
Oh my gosh, you guys. And I know somebody who's using it. I mean, it's not as obnoxious like price wise as you would think, but it's like literally a plane full of dogs and their owners.
Amazing.
No, anyway.
Get me on that flight.
Let's hit them up. We need them as a sponsor. Just take us
Yes,
everywhere with all that.
I know. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. Well, thank you, Maggie, for being with us
I can talk about
today.
this all day.
I'm just so floored to meet you, and I feel like we dug really deep into some sensitive topics, but I feel like a lot of people out there can probably relate, and if not, they have been there or they feel they may be there in the next coming years. Obviously, we go through this when we take on this life and the ups and downs of it when we take a dog into our lives, but I think being able to talk about it and how to work through it is something that people need to have more tools to be accessible to, because so they know how they can process.
I think pet grief is obviously we all understand it if we have the pets, but I also think it's a I think something we keep to ourselves a little bit, because there's a little bit around like knowing other people who've lost, there's something about it that I think we don't maybe talk about as much, but it's our day to day. They get us out of bed every morning.
Yeah. And some of the beautiful things that can come of that. Like we said, it's like an intertwined lifeline. It's a legacy. Yeah. It's not, this is life, and this is what's all about it. And it doesn't mean that it's over. It just means that it's, Peanut's moving with you in a new way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And even though they're gone physically, they're not actually gone, and you still have
you're feeling them.
So
you're feeling her for a reason.
I feel her everywhere.
Yeah,
I get like I'm on like the 9th floor of a building, and I get visited by this bird all the time. That I'm just like
amazing.
I'm in a concrete jungle right now, and I look over and I'm like, hi, Peanut.
Yes.
Like, so cool.
Yes, I fully believe in that. Well, Maggie, thank you again.
Thank you all.
I can't wait to talk to you again. I think this is just going to be such a wonderful step to us having you on again and talking more and more about the wonderful things that you're doing. But I can't wait to follow you more on Instagram and see all the wonderful things you're doing. So, Amber, do you have any last favorites for your psych loving friend over here?
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk.
I was just so enamored with your story, and honestly, I feel like we can relate so much to what you've been through and what you're going through. And, I have an older dog that I'm starting to see, I'm trying to prepare myself for those moments, which is difficult to mentally deal with, but we don't need to get into that anymore. But I really appreciate you sharing that vulnerable side of you. And that's something that's not easy to talk about. And I really appreciate it. I don't want to get all sappy. I know we have to end the episode, but I really do appreciate it. And for my husband, we're huge fans of Psych. It's one of those shows that the only thing I don't like about it is the fact that when I watch it again, I remember what happened. And I'm like, dang it. I know already who did what. And so I can't watch it again.
Yeah.
So I can't experience never seeing it again.
For the first time.
Yeah, for the first time.
All right.
That's
so
the
magical.
only, my husband tells people to watch the show all the time. When I told him we were interviewing you, he was like, oh, that's amazing. You have to tell her how much we like the show. And I was like, yeah, I'll tell her. The only thing I didn't like was that every time I want to rewatch it,
yeah,
I'm like, oh man, halfway through the episode, I think I don't know what's going on, and I'm like, oh yeah, I already saw this.
Yeah, that's such a nice compliment, and thank you. Thanks for being fans.
Absolutely,
we love each other. We all love each other, and we get to keep making it. I mean,
and what a beautiful way to spin the world around. Now we get to talk together and meet on a different level, a much deeper level.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool, guys.
Really cool. Thank Maggie.
You all so
Thank you for being on the show.
I want to come back a million times. So
yeah, we can talk to you all the time. Well, that was so much fun chatting with Maggie. I just love how real and raw we were able to get about one of the harder parts of being a dog parent. And so I just really appreciated that interview. But we can't forget about one of our favorite parts of the show, which is where we get to hear from our listeners. So let's take one of our questions and see what they have to say.
Hi, this is Felicia. My question to you is, what inspired you to start the podcast? Thanks, y'all.
Oh, that's such a great question. Oh my gosh, that's so much fun.
It really is, because
I feel like Chrissy gives the best heartfelt answer to this, and I just want to ditto everything she says, because she's the feelings person and I'm the jokester. But Chrissy, why don't you answer the question for both of us, because you're so sweet about how you answer.
Well, I think it all comes back to when you and I first met, and just the relationship that we've grown together as friends, and we've for a long time wanted to do something that allowed us to reach outreach to pet parents, and kind of what you'll see on our social media as well is that, we're dog trainers, yes, and we do some pretty cool things with our dogs, and we're very blessed to be able to do that. However, we were like, how can we just reach out to people and talk about the things that kind of go unsaid or don't get talked about? And how can we have people out there just kind of understand that, hey, we're in the thick of it too. Our life is not perfect. We deal with the same things. Or, hey, we found this really cool hack that we do or we use, and we want to share it with you. That's what I like to meet when I meet people on the street with a dog or on a production or set. It's not what cool trick can your dog do. It's like, hey, look at my dog and look what we like doing together.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I think I think Chrissy and I are some of those people that, you could see stuff our dog does and you'd be like, oh, wow, like that's so unattainable. That's so out of where my range of work and what I can do is. But I think something that we were inspired to do and share on the podcast and the TV show was to share with everyone what like our lives actually look like with our dogs and how it is actually relatable. And we go through a lot of really difficult things with our dogs. And we both try to be transparent as much as we can throughout the show of the things that we go through, not only the ways that we have hacks to do things, but also some of the things that we face as dog parents. And with the podcast, we really wanted to get into that even deeper and talk to other dog parents and dog moms and amazing people and hear their stories and kind of share with everyone that we're all in this together. We all have a huge love for our dogs and that bonds us. And I think that Chrissy and I just have a really great time chatting about those things. And there's no one I can get more real with when it comes to dog mom life than Chrissy. And so I think it's the perfect match with one of my best friends. And it's a really fun show. So we really appreciate it.
And we want to reach to all of you. And that's what makes this so sweeter. It's not just a chance for us to chat because we can do that anywhere, but it's us maybe making a streamlined platform that you guys can also feel really comfortable and vulnerable here with us and share your stories too.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, thank you for asking that question, Felicia. And we really hope you guys enjoy the show. And like Chrissy said, we want you guys to feel like you can relate with us and that we're here with you too. So let's check out another question from another one of our listeners.
Hi, my name is Kev, and I have a question for the dog moms. What are your thoughts on the use of positive reinforcement versus punishment in dog training? Thank you. You are the best.
Aw, thanks.
That was a good one. This is a good topic.
Oh, boy. Wow. Ooh. It's a loaded question. I'll let you get started.
I mean, I think the first thing that comes to mind, and this, I come from a horse background of training, right? So that's where I began. And with that, there's a lot of pressure based, or we kind of put them in as they say, put them in a box, which is just giving them boundaries so that they know where to be and how to use their body and this kind of thing. Dogs it's a very different world than horses. However, I do believe that there are some boundaries you still need to set so that your dog is safe and knows what they can and can't do. So I do believe that there really is a very fine line between I'm going to be purely positive, because at some point your dog is going to have to understand that they cannot do certain things. Does that mean you're punishing them and storming around and making them nervous or scared? No, but you do have to show them, just like a child going to a stove that's really hot. This is not the right way, but you can do this and have so much fun and go this direction. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Amber?
Yeah, I think that some people put it in like two separate boxes and they don't realize that it's much more than that. It's like I either give my dog treats or I spank them and scream at them. And that's not really how training works. That's not really how life works. That's not how learning works either. And I think positive reinforcement is something that we have to realize it is rewarding behavior so our dog continues doing it. But punishment can also be something as simple as taking your attention away from the dog so that they don't jump on you. And so punishment has a wide variety. I never, ever think that you should harm your dog. There's absolutely no reason for you to scare your dog, intimidate your dog in ways that are unfair to your dog. So I think rather than thinking, should I focus on positive reinforcement or punishment, you should think of what's fair to your dog, what's going to help them learn. And like Chrissy just mentioned, a lot of training is really don't do this, but do this instead. And so that's stop what you're doing. You might have to apply some sort of punishment like, hey, no, stop what you're doing, and then come over here and play with this instead. So if your dog's jumping on something, stop, come over here, play with this toy. And that could be considered a punishment by some people, but it could also be considered positive reinforcement by other people. And so it's a really wide range of things. And I think as long as you are putting your dog's needs first in that scenario in a safe way, where you're making sure that they're not going to hurt themselves or do something in your house that's dangerous for them, and making sure it's a positive experience overall so that your dog can actually learn from the scenario rather than them thinking it's, unpleasant or something.
It's
like
true.
that.
And some people will say like, oh no, the moment you tell your dog no, the moment you show them they can't do something, you're being, that's punishment. And I'm like, but that's me really just setting a boundary so they know where to go. It's like going with the grain, or like trying to reroute a river down a stream and I want it to go a different direction. I'm going to set up rocks and little barriers so that I can get the stream to go the way I want it to go. And that's how I kind of view it. It's not that I'm stopping the flow of knowledge or the flow of learning. It's that I'm and putting them in a dam where it builds up and all this anxiety and fear and, lack of communication. But it's rerouting the stream. It's just making it flow in a different direction. And you need to have some boundaries put in place.
Absolutely. And, don't forget that every single dog is different, and that some dogs, saying the word no in a loud tone might be scary and punishment for them. But for other dogs, that might not mean anything. Right.
That's so true.
I remember training this one dog that they were like, she loves when we yell at her. And I brought her in my car. She was a boxer mixed with a Labrador. It was crazy dog. I used to take groups of dogs hiking and training, and I would put her in my car. And if she would like if you guys know boxers, they're just like, all over you, like smacking you, jumping all over you. And her jumping was like very painful. It was actually kind of scary when she jumped on you, because she was just like pummeling you. And they would grab her collar, scream at her, tell her no. And they're not trying to be mean to her, but they're like trying to set that boundary.
Yeah, right.
But for that dog,
it was
if you got physical with her, she
stimulated,
loved it. She was she was like, yeah, push me, grab me, wrestle me. This
That's
is
a
so much
boxer.
fun, right? So not going to get into how we trained that dog, because it's a whole nother episode by itself. But just think about your dog and how they learn and what's best for them, and make sure that you're doing it in a safe way and a fun way for your dog where they can actually learn something out of it, and doing what's best for you and your dog for sure.
That's right.
Okay. All right. And we have one more question. This question is from Aubrey. It came in written, so I will go ahead and read it. So Aubrey says, my dog just got neutered. He's supposed to not run or jump, but he's a Boston Terrier who's extremely hyper. I get it. I know Boston Terriers. He has a problem with biting my daughter and jumping up on our end table, slick out the window. Then he grabs the remote to run around with it. I'm worried he's going to rip open his incision. Can you please give me any ideas to keep him under control? Thanks.
Wow. I think you got more worries than ripping out his incision.
I think so. Oh my
sounds
goodness.
like he's a pistol. I'll kick off with this one, and it depends how people feel about it, but I'm a huge advocate of crates and playpens and spaces that you can keep your dog, and gates that you can keep your dog in a safe space while you need them to be under control, and offering safe outlets for exercise. So for me, first thing I would do is that if you're around the house, you can't keep an eye on them, especially around your child. You need to have that dog gated and separated, or put him in a crate and give him something he can chew on that's safe for him for that while, but it needs to be under a more managed situation. What do you think, Amber?
Yeah, I think that especially in this scenario, this is something, if your dog just had a surgery, it is not worth the risk of just letting them roam around the house. I've been there many times. My dogs have been spayed and neutered, had major complete stomach surgeries. And in those scenarios, even though it's really hard because we want our dogs to be happy and enjoying their day, we don't want to let them have that, that freedom that they can accidentally hurt themselves, especially if they're jumping up on things and causing harm to other people. So if your dog is not crate trained, definitely check out crate training, because that could be really helpful for you. But like Chrissy said, setting up a pen in your house might be a good alternative to that. I know that one of my dogs doesn't really love being in the crate, so I will put up little gates and things like that. And I always make sure he has something to do in there too, because it is boring when dogs are recovering. But there are lots of fun mental simulation games you can give them. And it doesn't hurt to talk to your vet about maybe while he's recovering from his surgery, maybe getting some sedatives that are safe from your vet to help him kind of keep calm, because we don't want him, making something worse and then having more vet bills and more surgeries down the road. So absolutely agree with Chrissy there. That's something that unfortunately is not very fun to deal with. And I think we've all been there. but making sure you have those things on hand to contain your dog in a safe way to prevent him from injuring himself. And then, of course, maybe after he's done with his recovery, maybe working on some of those outlets and some training, some leashed time so he's not biting your daughter and grabbing things he shouldn't be.
I agree, especially for the biting your daughter part. That's a pretty big deal. I don't know how old your daughter is, but I would say working with a trainer, because you definitely want to, no pun intended, nip that in the bud, because you don't want to be dealing with a dog that you can't feel safe with your daughter around, and you don't want your daughter to be feeling that she can't feel safe around her dog that she should be growing up with, and it should be a positive experience. So do your homework and get in with a trainer that can help you shape that behavior and turn that into something that everybody can manage.
Absolutely. Well, I think that wraps up to end of today's episode. We had lots of really great questions. We had an amazing guest, Maggie, where we got
Maggie
to
was
hear
wonderful.
So much about her dog Peanut, which is just it warmed my heart. Also makes me like pull like heartstrings because, you know, with our dogs getting older, it is hard to think about. But I really appreciated talking to Maggie and her being so open about, you know, her journey with her dog. And she's really just an inspiration to all of us.
She is. And, you know, not just having something happen that can be tragic in your life, but all the things that come out of it, like just like the circle of life itself, you know, when one thing is over, another beautiful thing emerges. And that's very true. And that's what we're seeing in what she does today and everything she does to give back to dogs and dog lovers and kind of push us all forward into a direction where we can feel inspired as well. So
Absolutely.
That was just such a wow. Like I got teary eyed.
I know. I could talk to Maggie forever, honestly.
I know. So it was a great episode.
Yes, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in, and thank you guys for sending us your questions. Don't forget, you can send us more questions or little blurbs to dogtv.com/thedogmoms. And if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review so that other dog lovers can enjoy the podcast and the show as well.
Have a great day, everybody. And remember, until next time, stay positive and have the best time with your dog and your furry friends in your home. And don't forget to go out there and just have fun with your dog. They just want to spend time with you and cherish every moment that you do get with them. So we'll see you until next time. See you on the next episode. This is Chrissy Joy.
Oh, I'm Amber. Amber Carr, whatever. That's me. Bye, guys.
Dog moms, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?